Hey guys, Dan here with Dan's Millionaire Code. Today's guest is super awesome. It's Kyle Deever. And let me tell you a little bit about him a little bit here. He's founder of CRO and CRO of Performance Windows. 3 years ago, he had like $200,000 in debt, and then he really started taking massive action during the start of the pandemic. Now they're on track to do like over 85 million bucks.
That's right.
In rev this year. So up and coming. And as you guys know, there's three types of guests I like to bring on the show. One, super mentors of mine, master, grandmaster, billionaire, Jedi, peers as well, and of course younger people that are super up and coming that you're going to see as future leaders of our universe. So he is like really on the acceleration. I think you should watch this guy here. We're going to get into how he did it, and did it in a very short amount of time. So I think maybe he can share some stuff with you guys how to do that as well.
Yeah, in a major way.
Welcome aboard, dude.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, dude. Okay. We both love scaling companies. We're both amazingly incredible salespeople, right?
Yeah, that's right.
It's all charisma, right?
100%.
Yeah. You know, Samuel L. Jackson in Pulp Fiction said personality goes a long way.
That's right.
Right? Yeah?
That's right.
You know, there's dogs out there. You know I love my pugs. And they make their whole living just being charismatic.
Yeah.
Their whole living, people feed them, groom them. Give them a little palace. They have guards from in ancient China, you know. So tell us, I want to hear your journey, consolidated version of like where you came from and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, so for me, originally I'm from Los Angeles. I grew up there, and from there I went on a 2-year mission. When I got back, I moved to St. George because at the time it was Dixie State University. They've switched up a little bit, but Dixie, all you need was a heartbeat and a social security number. So they took me right in.
Yeah.
And from there, that's when I came to Utah. And I was a young husband, and then I became a young father very quick. I was 23 when I got married, 24 when we had our first kid. And it immediately became that I had taken on this responsibility that I must provide. I grew up, my dad, he made great money while we were growing up. He was working in Hollywood. But the second I became married and a father, that was it. It was my time to kind of take care of my own, and I'd gotten used to a certain level of living. So what I started doing was just throwing myself into the work. And at a given point, my wife is the child of immigrants. So she had it in her that she wanted to repay their sacrifice by getting her degree. So she would go there, and I was working 3 jobs at the time. And I started my first business in St. George. St. George is Utah's Dixie. I called it Dixie Dirty Jobs. So I was doing junk haul, basically.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot during that time because, so what I would do is Monday through Friday, I would put up an ad on Facebook where I'd come haul your junk. I'd give bids throughout the week.
There's big money in that.
Yeah. Well, not for me because I was eating it. Because what would happen is I'd go out and one of the real lessons I learned was to value my own time, because I'd go and I'd give these bids afraid to lose the job, and so I'd super underbid it, and then Saturday I'd go rent a truck from the storage facility and go pick up all these jobs, and a lot of time I'd be doing work for $50 that should have been $300, but I was too scared to bid it up.
Oh.
And so I learned very quickly that if I'm going to charge, I'm going to charge what it should be rather than what I'm worried about they won't take it. And I learned a big lesson in valuing myself and my time.
Good.
And eventually I started knocking doors with a guy I had started serving tables with, my business partner now.
This is Windows?
Windows. So I started knocking doors down in St. George. Eventually moved up here, and I was getting my trash kicked up here. We were $200,000 in bad debt. I had 27% interest loan on my truck tires, so it was rough. And I'm just thinking to myself, I remember I went home for one Christmas and I told my dad, I said, man, I'm just starting to think that betting on myself is a bad bet. And he goes, I think you're right. And I was grumbling, and he said, you're saying you're doing all this work, right? But you're at home, you're chilling, you're doing a lot of lip service, a lot of mental thinking, but you're not actually putting rubber to the road. Mm-hmm. So you're lazy, essentially. And I'm like, screw him, he doesn't know. But as I got past the sting, but I realized he was right, that there's some people who talk about it, and there's some people who be about it. And unless I was going to be about it, I had to stop talking.
Mm-hmm.
And so as I was knocking doors, I was getting my butt kicked, and I eventually went and worked at a tech company. And that was my first introduction to what tech and what company culture is called out here, which at this place was just, some snacks in the break room and, a couple company parties. And from that time, I remember I wanted to be at that. They had the SDR AE model. I told myself, okay, I got to make it to AE, and I was the top SDR 4 months in a row. And I said, all right, if I want to be AE, they said if you do it again next month, you can be AE, and I was top again. And,
what's AE?
Account executive.
Oh, okay. You're selling software or something?
Software, exactly. And I did the next month. They said, oh, actually, we have a rule. You got to be here at least 6 months in order to get promoted. And they pulled the rug on me, and I remember that month they gave me an award. They gave me SDR of the Year, and it felt like in the office when Dwight got 13th Employee of the Month in lieu of a pay raise, And I knew always that if I didn't go take what was mine, that this is what they would give me. And so in March of 2020, me and my partner Levi Henry, we just jumped and we opened our own window company. My only requirement was that we had an office because he just wanted to meet at Beto's and split some burritos while we were working with our first 2 sales guys.
Until we started.
Yeah, at Beto's?
Not at Beto's.
Yeah, but
it's some
crappy
cafe.
And that was it, man. We jumped. I remember I called my boss at the tech company and I said, hey, man, I'm quitting today. It was April 20th, so we just passed our 3-year mark. And he goes, well, if you don't come for the rest of the month, you're going to lose your commission. I said, well, it's $140, so you go ahead and keep it, brother. And from then we jumped in, man. It was insane.
Wow, dude. So this is a quick start, man.
Quick, yeah. So we jumped in the pandemic. It was March of 2020, and our first year we started with me and my partner, three knockers, right? And our first year we ended up doing $4 million. What helped about Utah was that everybody was home, but people didn't care too much about the pandemic, so they still let us come in. Our first year we did $4 million. Our second year we did 16. Last year we did 35 million, and then this month should be this year should be about
So how are you
85.
kicking all your competitors' asses?
Well, the big thing for us has always been that myself and my partner, we started as door knockers.
Oh, yes.
And I hear so many people, they talk about work on the business instead of in the business, and there's a lot of merit to that. But for me, I've still got knocker in my blood sometimes. I'll go out and knock because how can I recruit people to come do something that I find too demeaning to do? So I'm still, it's like Cuban. He tells this story. When he bought the Mavericks, he goes and he doesn't take his big desk in his big office. He takes his desk right in the middle of all the sales reps, pulls out a phone book and starts dialing. And that's what it's always been for me is that I would call my best friend if he was in med school, and my best friend wouldn't even come close to med school. But I would call him and say, you must drop out and you must come work here because it is life-changing what we're doing. And I can only do that because I know that I'm willing to still do it myself. And so that's been the big thing for us is that we don't try and convert people past our own level of conversion. If we're trying to tell people to come knock or come do it, so many people, they look at door knocking, and I understand it as a means to an end. But for us, I mean, this is a means to infinity for us. You know what I mean?
That's cool. Yeah, I've seen recently a lot of different friends with different businesses from solar to different things, pest control and all that use the door knocking sales force.
Yeah.
And it seems like the common denominator of the ones that last is good integrity and process, right? Like, so they're being honest with people, qualifying correctly, not afraid to sell, but good follow-up and all that.
Well, that's a big thing for us on a couple levels, especially integrity with our people. We've got a standing order, everybody understands. You don't need to collect your last paycheck before you tell us you're quitting because we pay out no matter what. So many of these companies, if somebody leaves, they say, well, I'm going to keep that check.
That's not cool.
They keep 2 Gs, 3 Gs, but then their entire company knows that when I'm quitting, I got to screw them before they screw me type of deal. Another big thing for us, obviously, is the product. So that's why we're so successful on the sales end is that we treat our people right. But on the customer side, I still get calls from people I sold 3 years ago. It's a true lifetime warranty. I get a call from somebody that I sold 3 years ago saying, hey, my window's leaking here, and I got somebody at their house the next day. So how many products do you know that you could call the founder and say, hey, I've got something wrong with it, and he'll have somebody out taking care of it 3 years later? It's not much. So
it's important.
Yeah, we really emphasize our customer service, and we've stayed so sharp because what I've seen is a lot of guys blow up, then they take their eye off of the ball and they get hit in the face with it. And for us, it's so important to us to be in the business and on it.
Yeah, I was thinking back when we started our company 31 years ago, and then went through this explosive growth phase. And we were talking a little offline about some of the things to do to keep your money.
Yeah.
Right. And there's a lot of things out there. Correct insurance, right? Yeah. Paying guys correctly.
Yeah.
All this compliance with all these different laws that are changing and things like that, though. But I think, to scale business is just, there's really two things. There's traffic,
Yeah.
right? Leads, which is done by your marketing, right?
Yeah.
And closes.
Yeah.
And when it comes to the sales aspect, it sounds like you've got the sales aspect really good. As far as leads, are you doing crazy, innovative type of things?
No, in fact, all of our lead generation is done by door knocking. We we do a lot of marketing. The only marketing we do is to get more salesmen. So we don't market our product. We're the Andersons and the Pellas. They're out there with all these commercials doing different things. Our only marketing, we spend, tens of thousands of dollars per month on our marketing. It's all to get more salesmen. Because our salesman is our best attribute to add more sales to it. But going back to what you just said about when you were in this explosive phase, I always get uncomfortable when people talk to me on my podcast and praise me, but I watch a lot of your stuff, and there's a lot of influencers out here, right? Mm-hmm. But so many of them it's regurgitated, and they're just repackaging different things. The amount of times that you're saying things, and you said something to me the other day, which was that you are leaning into the business now and growing sales. And at 31 years later, this massive company, and that you can still affect it. That to me is one of the most inspiring things in my position, is to watch somebody who's been doing it for 31 years and still be like, oh, I'm going to lean in and do that. Where do you find that within you?
Well, it's almost like if you look at kings of all empires through time.
Yeah.
When you had like William Wallace, like picking up the sword, like the men and women respect that.
Big time.
If they know that you can engage at a higher level than most people, and you can show courage, then suddenly they're all courageous.
Yeah.
And then you'll have these leaders kind of promote themselves almost.
Yeah.
And want to be that right-hand person for you, left-hand person, all those things. But it's important to keep your mind sharp to show that you can truly transact at what current market conditions are.
Yeah.
And what's kind of crazy is like in our company, I have some executives that incredible, that came from big companies that came in and just did amazing stuff. Like I've had one guy sell more than 20 sales reps consistently for like 3 years just because he knows, you know. And I think it's important that when you have people performing at that level is to give them a way to have some equity and earn out through time. So that, because really if they're that good, they're going to end up being your competitor unless they have a piece of your pie.
And that's a big thing for us, has always been. So I didn't become I heard a question get asked one time. It was actually at an elevator night for Fleisch.
Oh, yeah, those are good.
Yeah, and somebody asked, did you become an entrepreneur because you couldn't work for somebody else? And for me, that's never what it's been. It's never been that I can't work for somebody else. It's been that my dream must fit within theirs. And if it doesn't, then I've got to move on, right? And so you asked me why we're able, to do things that other people aren't. A big thing for us that I'm at war with the door-to-door industry is that they always say you don't promote your best salesman into management. But the fact of the matter, especially in door-to-door, is that the money gets boring. They're making $500. I got 25-year-old kids making $1 million this year, and you pay them that for 2-3 years, they get bored with it. But what we do is that life is about progression, right? People talk about damnation like it's fire and brimstone, but to me, damnation is literal damnation, no longer moving forward, doing the same thing over and over and over again. And so a big thing that we've always done is that people, when they want to move up, there are positions if they can do it, right? So we've got marketers that get open. We've got different things that, as we continue to grow the business, they can progress with it. Because the money gets stale at a certain point. They've got to be able to progress, and that's been a big thing for us. That's exactly what you're saying.
There's a trick to that, though.
Yeah.
So, I'll take one of my top executives, president of 3 of my companies.
Yeah.
And when he started a decade ago, I think he was making $50,000 a year or something.
Yeah.
But now he's making insane.
Yeah.
But here's the deal. One thing that I've done, and you could do this too, so you're a super entrepreneur, so you know financially where things need to go. You're a good dude, so spiritually, personal development, there's some guidance there, you know, and setting goals physically, so physical, financial, spiritual. One thing that a lot of business owners don't want to do, and entrepreneurs, is show their people the secret sauce of how to become strong in those areas, because they want people to stay dependent. I used to think that too, but one thing is, nothing is a better feeling than having an employee say, my net worth now, not just like W-2 stuff, right?
Yeah.
But my net worth is well over $1 million.
Yeah.
And, you know, what do I do? And you've given them a path so that they can actually make their passive income larger than their primary.
Right.
And a lot of people think, well, if I do that, they'll leave. Mm-mm. But no, they're like, I won't leave because I want the newest information that you're working on.
Big time. And
be involved in other projects that you do. You know, so it's like, it's very important. The way to recruit and retain is mentoring.
Big time. Yeah, and the thing is, what I've watched with your stuff is that you are the definition of the antithesis to the idiom of if you retire, you expire. You refuse to take yourself out of the game, which is just it allows them to continue to want to latch on. You know what I mean?
Well, the biggest thing is this. You know, I mean, as long as you have your wits, though, you should be engaging in the battlefield. You should be selling deals.
Yeah.
You know? Bridger and I, you know, my partner in our hedge fund, he'll laugh though because I think we did a call, and when we first launched the fund.
Yeah.
And he's like, dude, I don't know how people are gonna give us money. I'm like, dude, we're gonna show people, we're gonna educate them, we're gonna find what their problems are. And in that first capital call month, though, I think like $10 million just came in from text messaging people.
Yeah.
We didn't have our pitch like even perfected.
Right.
We're just like, you know, because it's belief in what we're gonna actually do for people. And now it's been really great because now we got track record, we're beating all the markets and all that, and then more of that momentum. But that all came from Bridger's dad, John, and Paul, his partner. They actually taught us how to do it because they used to throw like these pool parties with like jazz players.
Yeah.
And did you ever go to those?
That
was long. You were probably a little kid when those.
Yeah.
But anyway, they would throw those though, and people would go to these things and have fun and be able to meet other business people. And their fund is like $42 billion today.
Filthy.
But it was funny because I remember Paul was telling me, he goes, man, Bridger's dad was putting so much heat on me, like raise 50 grand by Friday, and it was like hard.
Yeah.
You know, but as the standards got set higher, and then it was funny because Bridger's dad taught me a lesson. He goes, Dan, why don't you go for like $1 million ask on deployments? He goes, not everyone can do it, but at least you're asking for that, and if not, you can, you know, walk down the mountain a little.
Right.
So it was funny because a couple investors, I said, hey, they're like, what do people put in there? I'm like, you should start with $1 million, and then go from there. And sometimes people will just be like, cool, let's do it. And then when the results are good, they're like, can I give you more?
Yeah.
You know? But that, you know, with corporate sales, that's what we've discovered as well. Do you guys do mainly residential or corporate?
Only residential.
Really? Have you thought about diving into corporate?
The problem is that we are a subcontractor. So if a big GC is doing it, then we've got, it's like an Anderson or a Pella window. So a corporate office doesn't want to put these big stanky windows on there because they're overpowered for what a corporate office would need.
Oh, okay, I see. But it was interesting is we were thinking kind of the similar thing with computers.
Yeah.
But now this year, I think our corporate revenue might exceed our consumer revenue.
Yeah.
Because we found out that there was interesting problems that companies had and governments had and big corporations had with computers that we didn't actually think was much of a problem because they used to just buy like cheap Dells and HPs like, you know, directly.
Yeah.
But then there was more of a specialization of a problem. So I would say on a corporate level and government level, there's probably some problems they have with Windows that you could solve. The beauty about it is like, imagine though taking a PO for like $8 million or $12 million off one customer.
Right.
Remember we were talking about rentals. Kyle was asking me, hey, should you buy residential like homes and rent them out, or should you buy big industrial flex commercial projects? And I said, I have tenants that pay me $50,000 a month, and they're less headache than the tenants paying me $2,000 a month on a little rental I have. You know that. You know. So it's the same amount of energy. And yeah, your margins are slimmer when you sell to a lot of these bigger corporations. but there's an economy of scale, and they tend to be less of a pain in the neck.
Yeah, big
You know?
time. Well, so I'm in the fund. I just
Yeah.
I just deployed with you guys, and something that really kind of sticks out. You were talking about integrity, and for me, I actually signed the papers. I deployed, and then I said to Bridger, "Hey, tell me a little bit about the fund."
Oh,
And the reason why is because you've done something that a lot of people haven't. I was listening to this one guy talk, and he says a lot of times people try and take a shortcut by screwing somebody or by doing X, Y, Z, and all it does is get you to someplace faster than you would have gotten it. But when you get to a certain level, it's just assumed that you know what you're doing and I know what I'm doing. So now it starts becoming okay. But how did he get here? Did he do it with integrity, or did he get here by screwing people? Because I know you're good at what you do. You know I'm good at what I do, but now you need to know if I'm going to screw you over. And so that's been a big thing for us. Is that when I trade on name value. You've shown me enough that I don't need to know the exact details. I know you're not going to screw me on that. But how have you? I mean, for me, it's not even. It hasn't had to be a decision, so I can't imagine there's been one for you. But it's one of those things where I don't need to be in the grocery store and think, should I steal this candy bar now? Because I knew a long time ago I'm not going to steal. So it doesn't even come to a decision. Is that a lot of how you do it now? Is that I don't need to decide whether I'm going to do this thing I'm not supposed to in this business, because that's just not how I do things.
well, here's the thing, though. I mean, whatever people believe out there, though, I believe in God, right?
Same.
And I believe the time we have on this planet is a lease from God.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, man, you got 75 years, 100 years, whatever it is, to be here. Now, what we do at that time is going to determine our eternal existence.
Yeah.
So why would we jeopardize our eternity for a quick buck?
Yeah.
Plus, think about this, though. Like, if there's anything you've done bad in your life, like you're a little kid, maybe you stole the cookie jar or cookie whatever. Yeah, it's like anytime you have ill-begotten gains, it doesn't taste good.
Yeah.
It gives you a sour stomach. It gives you guilt, and it doesn't have long-lasting. It's almost like you poisoned yourself.
Yeah.
So I think you got to ask yourself a question when you do something. It's like, am I operating with integrity? Do I have good energy, like trying to help people? And am I acting intelligently? Like, am I being competent about this? And that's it. It's just very simple, right? And you go back to those base fundamentals, and things tend to go good, and you sleep better. Now, it doesn't mean bad things aren't going to happen in life, man. I've gotten hit with the craziest curveballs, and you've probably had some at your young age, and you'll probably experience some really huge ones, right?
Right.
But at the end of the day, no matter how much money you make, it's just bigger stakes. So if you start making, let's say, $100 million a year net to you, your chances of going bankrupt are probably higher than when you were getting paid $50,000 a year.
Right. Bigger
Because
stakes.
everything's on the line. Things are leveraged. You have partners. You have big implications with taxes and laws, and you could get wiped out.
Yeah.
So that's why I believe that being engaged in the arena with your sword, with the blood and the sand, with your men and women, is important, because it keeps you in touch with what the customer wants, what your employees want, what you want, and it's also a sign of life, right? So I'd say you got to schedule time to get your hands dirty, like every single week, man, just to be aware.
And keep yourself sharp. A big thing for me that I wanted to ask you about. So my wife came from very poor circumstances, and so we've got a good situation where she can keep my kids humble, and I can give my kids vision and so forth. She asked me one time. She used to think that it was about greed, why I keep building, right? And a lot of times you see people just build to build. I heard this saying that said, "Growth for growth's sake is the ideology of the cancer cell," right?
Yeah.
Just doing it to do it. You got to have some reasoning behind it. One of my biggest fears as an entrepreneur and as a man is that it's not about the money. The money's a nice byproduct, but for me, it's that right now I'm the guy. Meaning, people, if they have a question, they come to ask me. They, if they need help with something, I can help them. But it's one of those retire you expire kind of things. There will come a day where people will say, "Oh, don't listen to him. He's old man. He's disjointed." What drives you to continue growing and building, because yeah, we've got our wives of our wife, our kids, our different things, but what's the internal thing that just keeps you ticking? Because everybody's got their wife and their kids.
Yeah, I mean, what drives me to continue to go is to transfer knowledge to other men and women in your organization and your life. Like, I mean, we're friends. I try to transfer knowledge to you because you'll probably, live longer than me because you're younger. And you're recruiting lots of young men and women.
Yeah.
And you will teach them. So in a sense, when I'm long gone, the students you've taught, if I've taught you and you've taught them, I'm immortal.
Yeah.
In their mind. And they will teach people. It's like the old Star Wars Jedi way. Yoda, Obi-Wan.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hopefully you don't get too many Darth Vaders.
Yeah.
Luke Skywalker. Like, that is the thing. And the purpose of life, the least from God, is to contribute, to teach, to help people who can't help themselves. People who can help themselves, teach them to really help themselves and, and give as well.
That's a concept I really like. There's two phrases I like. Is that man lives two lives, and the second one starts when he figures out that he's only got one. But the other one is that man dies two deaths, and the second one is when people stop saying his name, right? And that's kind of the legacy, is that it's carried on. When I started my podcast, it was to meet and be able to get mentored and have people. I use it as a tool. I had a hard time walking up saying, "Hey, I'm Kyle. I'd like some of your time."
Good tool.
Yeah,
I use it too.
It's an incredible
Bring friends on.
Yeah, it's an incredible tool. But what I've come to realize as I've done two things is that, one, this is going to be my legacy. My children and my grandchildren will see my likeness and hear me talk and hear those ideas for me. But the other big thing that I've taken away most from it is that all these incredible people I'm really excited to meet and talk with, I find out that it's just some guy or just some lady, right, doing these incredible things, which has been great for me because I'm just some guy, and if I can go out and put my rubber to road, I can go do those amazing things too. Have you all? I mean, you've rubbed shoulders with some other incredible people. Have you had that thought that, wow, this is just some guy who's done something amazing, or do you see them differently?
We're all just one chromosome above a chimpanzee.
Exactly. Two away from banana.
People, you see some of these influencers, no one will outwork me, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. That's bullshit.
Big time.
Because usually, even the most craziest entrepreneurs spend 90% of their time in distraction.
Uh-huh.
I mean, look at Elon. I love Elon. He bought Twitter, right?
Yeah.
But it's like a distraction project for him. Like, even Bill Gates is like, man, he probably should be focusing more on Tesla and SpaceX for money.
Yeah.
But for him, he wants to have some controlled interaction with people's mind.
Yeah.
So Twitter gets in people's minds and what they believe to maybe make things right in the country. So he's like, hey, I could buy this thing and change people's minds, right? So it's like, I don't think there's much difference. I mean, really, it's not really even about luck. It's just about execution. Manifestation is convincing your subconscious to take action.
Yeah.
And the only reason why, like for myself, if I want to make extra few millions of dollars, I'll just call some people and be like, hey, dude, you want to do this? No. Okay, fine. So what? Well, next wet duck. It's like water on your feather. Call next guy. Call next guy. Sometimes I'll send out and make in a day 200-300 messages to people, and probably maybe 95% of them say, oh, no. But 5% are like, man, here's $1 million, bro.
Yeah, let's do it.
It's just like, it's just a little bit of effort.
Yeah.
But think about this. To be buff, out of all the hours you have in a week, you really only need to lift weights maybe 20 hard minutes 3 days a week. You'll be pretty buff.
Yeah.
And maybe walk around 30 minutes a day, and you'll feel pretty good, right?
Right.
So it's not like you need to be a marathon dude, power lifter, Arnold Schwarzenegger. And that's the same with running business, you know. If you look at the average day of a mega entrepreneur, it's all the actions usually culminate maybe to a few small decisions.
Yep, big time.
And those small decisions massively move the needle.
Yeah, it's like moving a warship. Turning it a couple inches moves the entire ship.
Yeah, and a lot of times, like, brute force works, but I always say using the force is so much better in your influence. So it doesn't even have to be like before. When I was younger, I used to hard sell.
Yeah.
We used to call it like a joke on the sales floor, not my sales floor, but when I sold electronics at like this Best Buy type place, they'd be like, you gotta just stuff the customer in and get them what they need, get them their TV, let's go.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I'd sell a lot, But really, I found out that selling through discovery, hey man, what's your experience, man? What do you like about that? What do you not like about it? What would you make better? Like, if it could be perfect, what would it be?
Right.
And when you just walk people through that, there's not even a lot of selling. They just kind of like put themselves in the cockpit.
Choose your own adventure. They're picking, I'm going to turn to page 46 on this one.
And then I always just ask people, so how do you feel about this? Is it something that you think will make your life better and stuff? And they're like, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, oh, do you want to do it? And they're like, no. And I'm like, okay, well,
Great.
what are you thinking? And they're like,
Yeah.
they'll tell you why.
Yeah.
They'll be like, oh, my wife. I need to think about this, like about my Windows or computer. And I go, so you love the computer or you love the Windows? Do you think your wife would be more concerned about the computer and Windows or the cost?
Yeah.
It's usually the cost, right? Well, she'd be way concerned about the cost. I'm like, so if I could get you better cost, like your wife would let you own it?
Right.
And they're like, sure. And then you work the angles, right? And if you can make it fit for them, then they own it. Like, it's not,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter if it's $100 million or $10.
Right. Exactly.
It's just problems and needs,
One thing I wanted to ask you was, so my career, I think I've got a couple things going on. I've got Performance Windows, which allows me to lose money on everything else I do as it keeps going. But my life, my career, I think, will be defined by the people I partner with, right? I mean, my wife, obviously.
That's important.
It's my first and foremost partner, but Levi coming into my life on those different things. I have partners, right? Schwarzenegger talks about there's no such thing as a self-made man, and I agree with it, right? But the reason why I hate having a partner is because always, have a check and balance. And the reason I love having a partner, always have a check and balance. When you're going throughout and making decisions and doing different things, who do you think keeps you in your check and balance, aside from yourself?
My wife,
Yeah.
you should listen to your wife if she's level-headed and a good person. Like, I should have listened to her more through the years. The second thing is obviously business partners. I don't like to have more than in any venture more than one major partner, because then you'll get, if you have too many, they start they start ganging up on each other.
Yeah, too many voices.
I mean, not too many partners. Nothing is worse than slicing your company up in too many small pieces and having someone who owns like 0.1% that's pissed off.
Yep, because it's like having a residential over commercial. This 1/10 is going to yap just as much as or more than the big guy.
It's like having someone you don't like living in one of the rooms in your house.
Yeah,
like it's your house, dude.
But you agree that partners are a good thing, because a lot of times guys will say no partner, and for me, I think it's crazy because I've got a very strong set of skills, but I also have a very strong set of weaknesses that I need somebody to come in and have equal care about. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so there's two types of partners, There's sweat equity and there's money.
Yeah.
So if you have a partner that has way more money than you and is way smarter than you, that's the ultimate partner.
Yeah, big
now,
time.
if you got one that's just hard working and stuff, then you can work with them. You peel them off a little smaller percentage for sweat equity. It's rare that you're going to find ones with a lot of money and, they're going to do like a lot of the
have the time to do the sweat equity. Yep, that's right.
So but one thing too is you can create subdivisions and give like profit sharing and things that vest out, all kinds of great things, right? To keep that sticky. But here's the thing: what I do, my trick to recruiting is these are for high level people you're bringing on.
Yeah.
I go on your own. You will probably be very rich and a millionaire or whatever, But the only difference is if we work together instead of you doing your own thing, you're going to get there quicker because I have more resources and we have a team.
Yeah.
So if I can save you 5-10 years of your life and we can get there quicker, it might make more sense for you. And you have a little bit more safety too.
Yeah.
And usually people are like, oh, that makes sense, right? If you can save time.
You said something to me too and I'm just so excited to have you in this forum, but you said something too, you'd gone to a mastermind and it cost you $100,000 to go to. And you walked away with $250,000 deal from that thing.
Oh, yeah.
And for me, that's ringing in my ear. I mean, you said that to me 8 months ago. And now, anytime I'm going to some of these things, because I'll go to a lot of masterminds, I'll go to networking events, I'm thinking to myself, okay, how can I take my time, have it be valued enough that I'll walk away with something from this instead of just going for going's sake? When did it kind of click for you that, because you're super guarded with your time, right? You've got your things scheduled out and where you can be and when. when did it click for you that, man, my time is valuable and I need to be careful with it?
You don't want to be too stingy with your time though, because sometimes giving to like people who don't seem like you should be helping turn out to be some of the biggest financial rewards that you had. I'll give you a case in point example. This guy came into one of our computer stores and he's all stinky and he had a beat up rusty truck, and he's like, I need a screw for this laptop. He's like, I don't really have any money on me or anything, but it just keeps falling out. I'm like, we'll take a look for it, bro. I'm like, oh, we got screws put in there. You know?
Yeah.
So his CD-ROM drive didn't fall out.
Yeah.
Guy comes back like next week. He's all shaved up, clean.
Yeah.
He has like a Range Rover.
Yeah.
And he goes, oh, our family owns Deer Valley Resort.
Yeah.
By the way. He goes, I need to buy computers. He bought like 300 computers. And he's like, I just got back from this fishing trip for 30 days, and I was stinky, sorry, I was hungover, man. So like, you can't judge people for. I mean, you just never know. And usually the wealthiest people
are chilling.
There's no way you could tell visually, like, that dude's a billionaire.
Yeah. It's like Adam Sandler.
But, yeah. So just treat everybody with love and respect, and you can be guarded with your time. If people just say, can I pick your brain? I say no.
Yeah.
But then you can tell the good people. Here's a great story, though. My daughter is an artist. You guys know she draws all this crazy art. And I said, hey, I charge $20,000 an hour for private consulting. I will give an hour to one of you guys if you buy my daughter's artwork and you're interested in me mentoring you for like an hour. So this guy, he's like, hey, where do I send the money? So you sent her $1,000 and you didn't even want like buy anything, but you're like, just give it so she can use it for marketing and send it over something. So my daughter's like, man, this dude is cool. So I actually, even though it was only $1,000, I felt good actually coaching you.
Yeah.
For like an hour. I felt like it was good value.
Big time. Well, I'll tell you what, that's what really kicked it off for me, is that I'd been trying to understand a lot of what was happening, and you peeled back a lot of layers for me to understand things. And that, I'll tell you that, I mean, I've only been really trying to network with people since November, but that meeting was a major point for me because it made me understand a lot of what was happening around me with that. It really is, I mean, it was like a Jedi mind trick. You just peeled it all back, and I understood what was happening on the scene in Utah.
Just be careful. Just, you know, when you're talking about time wasters, there's a lot of people that will just want to pick your brain, and they're always take.
Assholes.
Not only asshole, they ask and they don't execute. That's different than people who just take.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, and then they don't respect your time.
Yeah.
With that. Now, there are reciprocally good relationships. So now you know you can text me on a weekend and I'll respond, I'll call, I'll talk to you, and you're not even getting a bill.
Yeah.
Right? But, hey, you're in our funds, you're part of that. You talk to other people, getting this fun, man. It's freaking awesome. So it's like, you're like a sales guy for me.
Yeah.
And I can offer mentorship in exchange. And then hopefully, on some of your investments, we make you a lot of money.
Right.
So then that's like a lucrative relationship. So any relationship should be lucrative like that. So like if people want your mind share, they need to join your Hive Mastermind thing. Yep. Give you a little bit of money so you can pay for keep the lights on for the events. But then they get your brain.
Exactly.
Like, I mean, for what's it going to cost to like be able to talk to someone who's doing 80 million a year in rev, you know? Like, what's it going to cost? And if you're charging them, I don't know, yours is like dirt cheap, right? Mm-hmm. How much is it?
$1,500 a month.
Yeah, so it's not like, and you get like that. And if they don't feel like they're getting value, they can cancel.
Exactly.
I mean, it's like you're either getting a good ROI or you're not.
Right.
So I think masterminds are critical, but you'll reach a saturation point in masterminds. I call it mastermind stagnation.
Yeah.
And it's almost like a musician. Like you'll see it, they'll have great speakers and all that. But then all the speakers end up starting their own mastermind and they're like poaching from each other. Then the vibe gets off.
Yeah.
And then you usually will just see the same founders speaking over and over, and they're repeating the same stuff. Yeah. Well, then it's probably not it anymore.
Exactly. You know. Yeah, and that's a big thing for. So I'll talk the Hive, and I'll respect your time here. Yeah. That was the big thing for us when we started the masterminds. For me, you know, I know you busted me the other day when I kind of joke about myself being dumb. But for me, with my ADD that kicks in, I'm the lowest common denominator in that if I enjoy a book, everybody's gonna love that book, right? Mm-hmm. If I think a podcast is super stimulating, oh man, everybody's gonna love that just because my brain's like, Mm-hmm. And so that was it for us. Is that, you know, there's a lot of, you know, the big thing that I need at these masterminds is networking, and so we do a lot of things that we're really pushing people together and creating the tool. Like I had to make a podcast in order for me to be able to talk to guys, but for this, it's bringing people together on it. So it's a work in progress, but it's something that we're trying to make that literally anybody can come in and love the damn thing.
You're doing it, though. The thing is, you're doing it. That's why you asked if I would speak at it. I'm like, how many people? It wasn't like a huge number.
Yeah, I think we were at 50 on this first one, and we learned some lessons.
Yeah, but the big thing is I wanted to reciprocate because you helped me a lot with different things and supported my daughter, so that's freaking awesome, man. Like, sure, I'm going to help a guy out.
Yeah.
And you'll hone it, and it'll get bigger and bigger and awesome, and and then you'll have to decide, man, my window company is so big.
It's always
and
going to be the windows.
and then this thing, and
Yeah, for me, and honestly, and what I can say is that it means a lot that when I started networking, I didn't understand what that kind of reciprocation was, but all I knew was that I just want to give and give and give, and then something will come back. And the relationships I got with guys like you and John Pennington and Sean Finnegan and all these guys has been truly gratifying for me, man. I really appreciate
You're going to do good, man. Just one thing that I would do, and I make it a rule now, is people, hey, man, what are you working on, man? How can I help you, man?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, as long as it's almost like, the story of the lion with the paw, and he's got a thorn in his paw?
Yeah.
Dude, all you got to do is, pull the thorn out. So if you found John Pennington's problem and you pulled a thorn out, dude, you got best friend forever. Big freaking lion, dude. And you're just like a little, cockroach compared to that.
Yep.
But then you got this lion following you around.
Yeah.
It's like, there's so much opportunity to do that, out there. It's crazy. So a couple things. So if people want to buy Windows, they want to sign up for the Hive Mastermind, where do they find you, man?
So GoPerformanceWindows.com. We are at 2 offices here in Utah. We've got 2 in Idaho. We've got Phoenix, Arizona. We've got Denver.
On your Instagram, though, do you have all the links to all that?
Yes. Yep. So
what's your Instagram?
My Instagram is Real Kyle Deever. No blue check mark.
Oh, really? You should pay for it.
Yep. And then
because you'll get too many fake ones.
That's right. Not yet. I've only got the 650 followers. I'm keeping them.
The bigger you get,
the
more fakes.
And so Real Kyle Deever. Honestly, I'm still at a point where I still run my Instagram. You can get in contact with me. I like to be accessible as long as I can. So that's where people can find me and do thehivemastermind.com. That's where people can look at our next events as well as sign up for it. But that's where I am.
Let's go. I might call you for some Windows, man.
Do it, my guy.
My Windows. I got some Windows.
I got some PCs on the way. We gotta get them going.
Get some fancy Windows.
Yes, sir.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on board. Thank you.
Appreciate you,
guys. You've been listening to Dan's Millionaire Code podcast, and every couple of weeks I try to bring in some mega Jedi that's up and coming, or there. I only ask that you do a few things. One, you execute. Don't be an asshole. If you've learned stuff from Kyle here and you're inspired, execute it. Just make at least a couple things and execute it. 2, share this podcast with your friends so we can help more people. There's no charge to you here, And then 3, if you make more money from what you've learned here, take 10% of that and give it to a good charity. I'm big on Operation Underground Railroad and Nuzzles and Co. to save the dogs and cats, but you can give to whoever you want to. So go ahead and do that and take action right away. All right, guys. We'll see you guys next week.